Radio crackled with desperate screams. "We can't hold them! Rescue us!" 4 F-16s were locked on by enemy radar. SAM missiles streaked upward like deadly rain. Over the frequency, terrifying silence. No one answered. The entire squadron thought this was their final moment. Just then, a heavy engine sound, unlike any other, rumbled from the horizon. A silver A-10 Warthog burst through the dust clouds. A calm female voice filled the radio. "Thunderhawk inbound. You're not alone." The entire battlefield fell silent. Reina Vasquez was 28 years old, with long brown hair and a serious face, though her eyes usually looked downward when around others. She was an A-10 pilot, flying an aircraft dismissed as ancient in the era of F-35s and F-22s. Throughout the base, the A-10 was treated as a joke. It belongs in a museum. Anyone who brings a hog to modern combat is committing suicide. It's slower than a cargo plane. Young pilots mocked Reina regularly. "You should stick to logistics instead." Reina never argued back, simply maintaining her aging Warthog with patience, cleaning the GAU-8 cannon barrels, checking every rocket individually. At night, she would often sit in the cockpit, looking out at the empty runway. An old mechanic later recalled, "Once I heard her whispering to that hog, 'Thunder never quits.' Her voice was so certain it gave me chills." What her critics didn't understand was that Reina had chosen the A-10 for reasons that went beyond assignment or availability. She had once flown faster, more prestigious aircraft. But she had learned that in real combat, what mattered wasn't speed or stealth. It was the ability to stay in the fight when everyone else had to leave. The A-10 was built for sustained combat. Its titanium bathtub could absorb damage that would destroy other aircraft. Its twin engines were positioned to survive ground fire. Most importantly, it was designed to provide close air support for extended periods. While other pilots focused on air-to-air superiority or precision strikes, Reina understood that the most important mission was keeping ground forces alive when they were outnumbered and outgunned. But the modern Air Force had moved beyond that philosophy. Strategic planning emphasized stealth penetration and rapid strikes. The A-10's strengths, durability, loiter time, devastating ground attack capability, were seen as outdated concepts. Budget meetings focused on cutting costs by retiring legacy aircraft. The Warthog program was constantly under review, with younger officers arguing that newer platforms could accomplish the same missions more efficiently. Reina absorbed their criticism without comment. She knew they had never been in situations where the difference between success and catastrophe was measured in minutes of sustained fire support from an aircraft that could absorb punishment and keep fighting. They had never seen what happened when fast attack aircraft had to leave the battlefield because of fuel limitations or threats, leaving ground forces exposed to enemies who didn't retreat just because the air cover was gone. Every insult about her obsolete aircraft was a reminder that the military was moving away from the kind of warfare where her skills and her Warthog's capabilities were most valuable. But she believed that warfare had a way of revealing what really mattered. When lives were at stake and conventional tactics failed, the old, unglamorous aircraft might prove their worth again. That moment was about to arrive in the most desperate circumstances imaginable. The border mission had gone catastrophically wrong from the start. A 4-ship formation of F-16s had been conducting reconnaissance when they flew directly into a carefully planned trap. Dense SAM systems appeared from concealment, creating an impenetrable web of surface-to-air missiles. The enemy had overwhelming numerical superiority and had chosen the terrain perfectly. Radio transmissions filled with panic. "We're outnumbered! Rescue us! Multiple SAM sites! We can't get clear! Fuel's getting critical! We need immediate support!" In the command center, the mission controller bit his lip. No available forces were ready for immediate deployment. A young F-16 pilot's voice cracked over the radio. "We're going to die out here." Fast attack aircraft couldn't penetrate the anti-aircraft environment. Stealth platforms weren't available in the area. Conventional wisdom suggested that any rescue attempt would simply add to the casualty count. In a distant hangar, Reyna heard the emergency transmissions through her radio headset. She had been conducting routine maintenance, dismissed from the main operation as usual because her A-10 was considered unsuitable for modern combat scenarios. But as she listened to the voices of pilots facing certain death, something crystallized inside her. She activated her radio. "Thunderhawk inbound. Hold steady." Everyone who heard the transmission thought they had misunderstood. A few minutes later, the ground began to shake with the distinctive sound of twin turbofan engines that was completely different from any fighter aircraft. From the dust clouds, the silver Warthog emerged. A F-16 pilot later recalled, "I was watching my fuel gauge, waiting for the missile that would end everything. Then I heard that woman's voice. I swear, my heart had never beat that hard before." What happened next challenged every assumption about modern air combat. Reyna brought her A-10 directly into the most dangerous airspace possible, the same area where fast, modern fighters couldn't survive. But the Warthog had been designed for exactly this kind of environment. Its armor could absorb hits that would cripple other aircraft. Its systems were redundant enough to continue functioning even with significant damage. Most importantly, Reyna had trained for precisely this scenario. While other pilots learned to avoid anti-aircraft fire, A-10 pilots learned to fight through it. She descended to low altitude, using terrain masking and the aircraft's durability to close with enemy positions that had been untouchable from safe distances. The enemy SAM operators, who had been confident of their ability to deny airspace to any attacking force, suddenly faced an aircraft that was designed to absorb their fire and continue attacking. Reyna's first attack run took out 3 SAM sites with devastating GAU-8 cannon fire. The distinctive brrrr-t sound of the 30 mm Avenger cannon echoed across the battlefield as armor-piercing rounds tore through enemy equipment. The trapped F-16s immediately began their escape maneuvers, using the gap in enemy coverage that Reyna had created. But the battle was far from over. More enemy positions revealed themselves, pouring fire at the slow-moving A-10 that had dared to enter their kill zone. What they discovered was that hitting the Warthog and destroying it were very different things. Reyna continued her attack runs, methodically eliminating threats while absorbing damage that would have brought down multiple other aircraft. Each pass cleared more enemy positions, opening the escape route wider for the F-16s that had been trapped moments before. The aircraft that everyone had dismissed as obsolete was proving its worth in the most definitive way possible. As Reyna continued her devastating attack runs, systematically destroying enemy positions with the precision of a surgeon and the power of a sledgehammer, radio chatter began to reveal her true identity. Whispers spread through the emergency frequency. "It's her. Silent Hawk." The name sent chills through every pilot who heard it. The full story emerged as veteran pilots recognized the tactical precision and fearless flying they were witnessing. Reyna had once been Silent Hawk, a legendary A-10 pilot who had achieved mythical status among close air support specialists. In a single night 3 years earlier, she had destroyed 12 anti-aircraft positions that were protecting a strategic enemy installation. Her solo mission had opened the corridor for a major Allied operation that changed the course of an entire campaign. But that same mission had cost her the life of her wingman and closest friend. While Silent Hawk had become a legend, Reyna had been consumed by guilt over the single casualty in what military analysts considered a perfect operation. She had requested immediate transfer to routine duties, and her Warthog had been relegated to a forgotten corner of the hangar. Now the forgotten pilot had returned, single-handedly changing the outcome of a battle that had seemed hopeless. The mission controller in the command center whispered into his headset, "She's saving the entire squadron. One hog, saving the whole battlefield." A radar controller later wrote in his report, "I've never seen an A-10 maneuvered like that. She turned a heavy, supposedly obsolete aircraft into a precision instrument. Every burst from her cannon opened paths to survival." As the battle continued, Reyna's Warthog absorbed damage that would have been catastrophic for other aircraft. Small arms fire, rocket-propelled grenades, even direct hits from larger weapons. The A-10's legendary durability kept it flying when any other aircraft would have gone down. More importantly, Reyna's flying demonstrated what happened when exceptional skill was combined with an aircraft designed specifically for the mission being flown. She used terrain masking to approach targets from unexpected angles. She coordinated her attacks with the F-16's escape routes, ensuring maximum effectiveness while minimizing friendly fire risks. Most impressively, she maintained continuous pressure on enemy positions, never allowing them to regroup or coordinate effective responses. The enemy forces, who had planned their ambush around conventional aircraft capabilities, found themselves facing something they hadn't prepared for: a pilot and aircraft combination that thrived in exactly the environment they had created. "She's not just flying that A-10, observed a military analyst monitoring the engagement. "She's conducting a masterclass in close air support." The 4 F-16s that had been trapped managed to escape the kill zone and immediately began providing support for Reyna's attack runs. But it was clear to everyone involved that the A-10 was the decisive factor in turning defeat into victory. A senior intelligence officer, reviewing the engagement recordings, made an observation that stunned his colleagues. "She just demonstrated that individual expertise can overcome tactical disadvantages that we thought were insurmountable." The battle raged for nearly an hour, with Reyna maintaining continuous attack runs against enemy positions. Her ammunition stores gradually depleted, her aircraft accumulated more damage, but she never wavered in her commitment to ensuring the F-16's safe escape. When the last enemy position was neutralized and the airspace was clear, the transformation was complete. A mission that had been declared unwinnable had become a decisive Allied victory. The F-16 squadron leader, safe at altitude and preparing for the flight home, transmitted a message that would be remembered by everyone who heard it. "Silent Hawk, on behalf of 4 pilots who thought they were dead, thank you." But perhaps most significantly, the engagement had demonstrated something that strategic planners had forgotten: that specialized aircraft, flown by experts who understood their capabilities, could accomplish missions that newer, more advanced platforms couldn't handle. The Warthog hadn't just saved 4 F-16s. It had proven that there were still roles in modern warfare where experience, durability, and specialized design mattered more than speed, stealth, or technological sophistication. The question now was whether the military would recognize the value of what they had almost lost forever, or whether Silent Hawk would return to obscurity in a hangar corner, dismissed once again as obsolete. When the battle ended, Reyna's Warthog landed on the base's main runway, trailing smoke from multiple hits. The aircraft was blackened by fire, its rocket pods empty, paint peeling from the fuselage and bullet holes visible across the wings and body. She opened the cockpit and climbed down to find the 4 F-16 pilots waiting for her. The squadron leader gripped her hand tightly. "If it weren't for you, we would be nothing but wreckage scattered across that desert." No more mocking comments about the Hog being obsolete. No more jokes about museum pieces. That night in the mess hall, the chair next to Reyna remained empty. No one dared sit there. The silence itself was a form of respect. A young pilot who had previously ridiculed the A-10 program approached her table. "Ma'am, would you be willing to teach us about close air support? We obviously don't understand what we're talking about." Reyna considered his request. Close air support isn't about the aircraft. It's about understanding that your job is to bring people home alive, no matter what it costs you personally. But the tactical aspects, the way you handled that environment, those skills come from accepting that you're flying into situations where survival isn't guaranteed. Most pilots learn to avoid danger. A-10 pilots learn to control it. The base commander, who had been observing from across the room, approached their table. "Silent Hawk, the military owes you more than an apology. We've been wasting our most valuable close air support asset." "You've been adapting to modern warfare," Reyna replied. "I just happened to be in the right place when old-fashioned warfare reappeared." "But that's exactly the point," he continued. "We need pilots who can handle both. We need people who understand that different missions require different solutions. Over the following weeks, requests began arriving from training commands and operational units throughout the military. Everyone wanted to understand how an obsolete aircraft had accomplished what modern platforms couldn't achieve. Raina found herself reluctantly becoming an instructor, sharing knowledge about close air support tactics that had been nearly lost as the military focused on high-tech solutions. But more importantly, she began to understand that her guilt over past losses didn't have to define her future contributions. Maybe Silent Hawk had returned not just to save 4 F-16s, but to remind the military that some capabilities were too valuable to discard, regardless of how old or unfashionable they appeared. People easily forget old machines and mock quiet pilots who fly them. But that night, one A-10 proved everything wrong. Raina didn't need praise or recognition. Just one flight, and her Silver Hog had saved an entire squadron. The lesson is clear. Never underestimate anything just because it seems outdated or silent. It might be exactly what saves you in your darkest moment. Sometimes the most valuable capabilities aren't the newest or the flashiest. Sometimes they're the most reliable, the most battle-tested, the most willing to absorb punishment and keep fighting. Heroes don't always fly the most advanced aircraft. Sometimes they fly the ones that can take damage and keep going, piloted by people who understand that bringing others home safely is more important than personal survival. If you believe that quiet heroes deserve to be remembered, leave a dot in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to SN Quiet Stories to hear more tales like this.